Okay, so we've got our UVs done. So we are getting ready to drop this thing into Substance Painter. So let's go back to regular layout. And so this one is going to be our chair underscore low. And so what we're now doing is creating the high poly version that we want to use in order to bake your non-ridiculously crisp edges that only exist in a 3D render. So we want to kind of get rid of that. And yeah, basically just giving ourselves something to generate the normal map information. So we've got our low, he's perfect. Shift D, create another one. Right click to drop it in the exact same space. Hiding our low. And then we'll even go as far as to name this thing correctly. Yeah. Okay, so this is the most incredibly boxy of objects, and that's what this first assignment is. Hard surface. So what we can do here, so the first thing I like to do is actually go in, hit A to grab everything in edge mode, right click, and clear your seams. So remember, the high poly doesn't have to have UV maps. The only information that we need from it is just its geometry. So I'd like to get those out of the way so I can actually see what it's selecting when I do the next step, which is to tell it to grab all of the edges, select, and we're going to select sharp edges. And we can see here too, it's using the anything over a 30-degree angle. It's going to put an edge on. And this thing is so incredibly boxy that it's doing it right. So that's every single edge, and it's just very, very easy to calculate. We start getting into more complex objects, so you've got like a rounded out edge to the front of this, or this thing bends in behind. You have to start paying more attention to kind of what that is, and even in some cases just manually grabbing the ones you want. In this case, it nails it. So what we want to do is just create a nice little rounded edge, but nothing crazy. We still want this thing to come out looking like it has hard flat faces. We just want to get rid of this ridiculous razor edge everywhere. So Control B, and I'm just going in a little bit. Come on, you. Right about there. Here we go. Just enough. All right, I'll tweak that later. So the advantage of using your shortcut Control B to bevel over actually clicking the icon there on the left hand side is once I bring in the amount I want, I can wheel mouse to then add more separations to it. And remember, this is going to be just geometry that our object is going to be using to create the normal map, the fake depth. So we can go as high as we want with this. This is not going to be an object that will be in scene. This is an object that's going to be used to create the illusion that it doesn't have those terrible, terrible edges. So let's see what we got here, and go back in and also do our clip start. And I guess that's a good thing to know too, because you noticed in a previous video I already did that, but I did that in the UV editing. So each one of these things is kind of its own deal. So although I took the clipping down in this one, as far as layout's concerned, it's still on the same defaults. So with that, it's looking good. And okay, so notice too though, we can still see, even though we've got a lot of polygons in here, we can still see them. So we're doing a shade smooth on this one. And now it looks fantastic. And that's also a good time to go back to your low poly and also remember too that it needs to be shade smooth. And the easiest way to remember this, if your low poly looks quite nice, you're not done. It has to look kind of garbagey, where it's trying desperately to round out all your edges, which gives you this ridiculous black. But remember, we're dropping it into Substance Painter, so it can create normals using this information. Low. So what we don't want it to have is any information coming into it. If, for instance, we come in with a shade, select the object and then choose shade flat, what's going to happen is going to come in and go, okay, I know I've got razor edges here and here, and then it's also going to bake the nice normal. So you're going to have this nice little curve, but right straight through this curve, you're also going to have that razor's edge. So just a good thing to know, you're bringing this thing into Substance. Your low has to look like ass, like that. And so with that, we've got our high and we've got our low. So we're just taking the pair of them each separately and saving them out to an FBX. Export FBX. Bring this over here so you can see it. Defaults are absolutely fine, except the only thing that doesn't stay on, selected objects, because I don't want it to grab the lights, cameras, and all the other stuff. And then we want to put it in a place where we can find it again. So I'm going to go straight for my desktop. And drop this chair. Open it up. And it's going to be chair low. And then grabbing this guy. File, export, FBX. Bring it over here so you can see it. And for this one here, we are doing a single object bake. So in all honesty, I could have these names anything, like chair and also chair. When we get into multi-objects, then we have to start paying attention to the actual naming convention, because there will be several objects and these objects need to match up. Also too, it's easier to get into the habit of just using a lowercase h for high, lowercase l for low, just because that's the way Substance Painter comes in by default. It's not worth changing the defaults every single time, forgetting it on like about 20% of your projects and going, oh shoot, I forgot to change that again. So just, yeah, start using lowercase and you're good to go. Oops, I done changed my name. And let's go back in here. Underscore high without a capital would be the proper way to do it, but like I said, it doesn't matter for this one. Export. All right, and that is her. And then see you cats in Substance Painter.